Yo, what's going on guys, it's Cynical and welcome back to another video. Today for you guys, I wanted to talk about Neo The World Ends With You, the long-awaited, highly anticipated sequel to the very original game that released back in 2007. It's absolutely insane to know that finally TWEWY is receiving a sequel 14 years after the release of the very original. Of course, we know back in 2018 the very first game got a second chance with the final remix version, an almost final mix type version for the very original game that was re-released over on the Switch. This most certainly gave fans hope that maybe possibly at some point there will be a follow-up sequel so long as final remix does okay in the way of sales, though the sales figures for final remix didn't really do all too well. We are still sitting in a timeline here where we are actually receiving a full-blown sequel, so that is super cool to know. And very recently, Square Enix ended up dropping the demo for the game on both PlayStation 4 as well as Switch. The demo is pretty hearty, I honestly do have to say, consisting of about 2 hours of game time if you are taking your time grinding out levels. It allows you to play through the very first 2 days of the Reaper's game in the demo, which in itself, I gotta say, is pretty generous. And the really neat thing about this demo is it actually allows you to transfer your progress over for when the full game releases next month. So today I wanted to give my thoughts and first impressions towards Neo The World Ends With You, mainly because the very original game ended up releasing on the Nintendo DS. And finally, we are getting a modern installment for the franchise, with it releasing on, of course, the Switch, as well as the PlayStation 4. Seeing it release on a home console like PS4 got me really interested, especially to see exactly how it is going to work, considering the fact that the very original game relied, of course, on touch controls. This is an action RPG, but the original was an extremely niche action RPG as it relied heavily on touch controls, being that it released on the Nintendo DS. So the thing that I've been sort of wondering about Neo is how exactly are they going to translate that known TWEWY gameplay over onto a home console like PlayStation 4 with, of course, a controller. Now, what we do know is Final Remix did the whole thing of porting the game over to the Switch, and of course it had 2 different control setups. There is touchscreen mode, which is basically like just playing the original game with touch controls, but then you can also use the Joy-Con, but I gotta say the Joy-Con controls for Final Remix are not good at all, and it didn't really give me too much hope to see how this is going to translate over to the PS4, at least knowing that with Neo over on the Switch, you'd probably be able to use the touch controls. How exactly is it going to work here on the controller? And I can confirm, man, this gameplay is really good, even better than the original, and I have to say that Neo The World Ends With You is such a massive, massive step forward for the franchise. So I thought I'd just talk about gameplay first, because I think this is kind of the most important factor right here, at least for me anyway. While TWEWY does have a generally interesting story, its gameplay is what kind of captivated me mostly in the first place, just due to how unique and quite niche it is. So in the original game, you would use the Nintendo DS and do different gestures with the stylus in order to perform certain different abilities that pertain to the equipped pins that you have. These pins are essentially the abilities that you can utilize. Now, the entire gameplay system with the pin system and the foundation of the TWEWY original gameplay is here in Neo, but has been worked on and translated for the greater good, I must say. You still equip pins, which all still have their own unique abilities, but this time around you're equipping pins to each of your party members. So yes, while Rindo is the main character, you've also got Fret, as well as Sho Minamoto, who is of course from the original TWEWY game. This time around, rather than being a Reaper, he is a player, which I think is so cool. And you equip pins onto each of those characters. Now, you control each of the characters whilst engaged in gameplay, and the encounters work the exact same as they did in the original. You scan in whatever area you're in, you will find the noise symbols. You can chain battles, so you can collect up to 5 different noise noise symbols, and that's 5 waves of baddies you're going to verse. Each pin has its own button prompt that is used to activate its special ability. From what we've seen in the demo, this can either be square, triangle, R1 or L1, and just like in the original, you would either have to touch the pin with the stylus or perform a different gesture. It's a sort of similar system in this game where you either hold down the button, continually tap, or just singularly tap to activate whatever the corresponding ability is. Depending on whatever ability you've last used, which pertains to the pin that's equipped with that current character, you will then end up controlling that character. X is used to dodge incoming enemy attacks, the left stick is used to move the character, and the right stick is used to change your locked on target. Whilst attacking enemies in combat, you will have a little reticle that sometimes might come around the target that you're attacking, which will say drop the beat. This will happen when the enemy is attacked under the right circumstances, generally meaning if they are attacked with something they are weak to. Once this reticle pops up, if you attack the enemy with a different pin, you'll increase your groove meter, which is displayed up the top, by 15%. If this meter reaches 100, you can activate a really special team attack that is devastatingly powerful. This is very similar to the cross combo and fusion mechanic from the original game, except in the way of the whole fusion thing from the original game, as you would have like mini games to then perform these special crazy team attacks. You don't necessarily have that here in Neo, you just want to aim to increase that groove gauge up to 100% to unleash a special strong attack. That right there is basically the fundamentals of the gameplay. It's very simple, but yet extremely addicting. And the way that Square and Hand have been able to translate that original TWEWY gameplay feel over into more of a modern format, ditching those touch controls, I think is absolutely fantastic. It's better than it's ever felt. Also, what I appreciate now too is, in regards to the pins, just because there are absolutely so many of them like there were in the original, when you go into the pin menu, it will actually give you a little preview video of exactly what that pin does. Of course, it gives you information on exactly what type of attribute the pin is, how much damage it does, what it does in the ways of actually activating it. But actually seeing a preview video without having to equip the pin then use it to see what it does is highly appreciated, just again considering there are so many pins when it comes to this game. Another massive thing for Neo is the fact that the game is now 3D, and this is huge. The original game was of course 2D, being that it was a Nintendo DS title. This means whilst you're in combat and also exploring Shibuya, you are in a 3D space. This is especially important for when it comes to gameplay because you are of course controlling the characters all in real time. This is a real-time action RPG, but even though the game is in 3D, it still retains that classic TWEWY feel when it comes to the artistic sense of the visuals. The game isn't hyper-realistic or anything, it's very anime-type-esque, but it's got a very distinct art style to it. One thing that should be known is there is absolutely no control over the camera in this game. There is, well, no such thing as a camera in this game, so whether you be in exploration mode or battle mode, the camera is always fixed. I'm not saying this is a problem because it's not. This was kept in mind for the design of the game. But everything that you would come to expect from the original is in Neo. I don't think that Square have cut any corners when trying to sacrifice one thing for something else. Everything is here. It's just crazy how well and how good of a job these guys have done with translating the original, just redefining certain things to give an even better experience. You know, there's a ton of collectibles, whether it be pins, whether it be clothing, whether it be food or music. And by the way, just real quick, yeah, the music is absolutely banging. This should come expected because it is The World Ends With You. The original soundtrack was so good, and just from the few tracks that we've heard from Neo, it's really damn good. I can't say just yet, but I'm gonna say that it's probably gonna be a better soundtrack than the original. Time will tell though. Just a lot of genres all kind of mashing together. There's a really good variety of music here. You can of course hear people's conversations as you're running through the city, which is an extra little nice new thing. Sometimes it can be a little bit annoying with lots of text bubbles and stuff popping up on screen while you're just exploring, but for the most part, I think this is quite neat because it gives life to that feeling of being in Shibuya, which is a generally crowded place in real life anyway. You're overhearing people's conversations, talking about certain different ramen shops, clothing shops, etc. It's quite neat. The game can be a little bit distracting sometimes, but I like it. Of course, the scan system is here. It's got to be here. This is how you engage in the noise battles, but also too, just like the original, you can read people's thoughts. While sometimes this is mandatory, you don't have to do it. It's more so of an optional thing, which you can spend a lot of time doing, just running around the streets, scanning people's thoughts. Generally, it's stuff that just doesn't matter. They're just mindless pieces of dialogue, but some of them can just be absolutely hilarious. The difficulty and level adjusting is in this game as well, just as it was in the original. What you could do is you could, of course, change the difficulty on the fly. Doing so would mean that the harder the difficulty is, the rarer items you receive. You're also able to lower your level as well, which in return means that you will have less HP, but the benefit here is it also increases the drop rate as well. Now, one thing that is new is unique scan abilities to that of the characters in the game that you have in your parties. So, for instance, the only one that we got to try out in the demo was Fretz, and his unique scan ability is being able to make people remember certain things. There's a scenario in the demo where you have to make a support reaper remember something as well as a graffiti artist, and it's essentially a mini game. I'm assuming that Nagi, the other character that will eventually join your party, we didn't get to, of course, experience her in the demo, but she'll most likely have her own unique thing going on as well. But Fretz is just extremely agitating. Now, this is just my personal opinion on it, but in this minigame, you have to reconnect all of these scrambled bits of paper to form like an image so that the person that you're trying to make remembers what you're trying to figure out. It's really annoying. There's basically 2 lots of paper that are controlled by each analog stick, and you gotta get each analog stick in the correct sort of position in order for the image to form. It's just, oh my god, it is mind-numbing. Honestly, Fret's face is me while I'm trying to do this junk. I wouldn't expect something like this to be touched up for the final release, but I can already tell for the full game I am going to struggle with this. Again, this is probably just a me thing. I kinda hope I'm not the only one that absolutely hated this, because I really did. But I only hope that for Nagi, if she does have her own scan ability thing that we'll use, I do hope it's a lot less mind-numbing. One thing that is absolutely massive though for the story side of Neo is the fact that there are quite a few cutscenes, not all of them, but quite a few that are now fully voice acted, and on top of that too, we actually do have full-blown cutscenes as well. These don't tend to happen too much, but all of this is really nice because it just adds an extra level of immersion and personality to that of the characters in the world. Getting more consistently voiced cutscenes is really nice, while we still have those text bubble cutscenes going on, and even when we do have the voiced ones, they still remain like that, except they're just voiced now. It's just really nice. Again, it adds such a thick layer of personality to these characters. There were some scenes in the original that were, but it was very, very inconsistent. Of course, again, this is a DS game, so not to be expected, but it's just really nice now knowing that we've got some voiced scenes. Also on top of that too, as I was saying, full-on cutscenes. Again, these don't happen too often. They'll be very far and few between, but we are getting full 3D cutscenes here and there, so that's also really nice and really cool to see. Also, our pig noise is back. I just thought I'd let you guys know, yes, we have the unique noise, so it's good. I don't know why, I like the pig noise. Pig noise is back. I do have to say too that I absolutely love the main cast of Neo. I feel like I might even furthermore than the original. While I absolutely love Neku, I love Shiki, I love Beat, I love Rhyme, I love all of those guys. I think this squad this time around is going to be a little bit more enjoyable. Again, the whole voice acting thing probably helps towards that, in all honesty, but these personalities are actually really, really cool. I like Rendo. He's not so reserved and introverted to the degree of like Neku. I get that's part of Neku's character. He kind of is in areas, but not fully. And also the fact that he's already got a pre-established friend before coming into the UG, into the Reapers game, I think is a really nice thing to see, of course. Neku was a bit of a loner, then made friends in the UG. Rindude, this time around, he's already got a pre-established friend, Fret, who comes with him. And Fret is a lot of fun too, full of energy. It's kind of what you expect from the sort of sidekick character type thing. I absolutely love it. The energy and relationship between these guys, it's really, really cool. I'm liking the dynamic. And also I just have to say that the Reapers as well, they are just bursting with personality as they kind of did in the original. But this time around, I really, really enjoy the Reapers just from what we've seen so far. They are all extremely very, very unique, like apparently unique. So I cannot wait to see more of them in the full version. All around though, I have to say this is exactly what you'd expect from The World Ends With You sequel. All of those classic TWEWY tropes are here in the sense of being woke with the current day and age slang and sayings and cultural stuff. The use of cell phones in this game is extremely apparent. In fact, there is a Reaper here that only talks through text. Very appropriate for our current day and age. TWEWY seems to be quite woke in its dialogue when it comes to it, and it's no exception here in Neo. The original game was, I have to say, it was a little bit ahead of its time in the sense of the words and stuff it would use. Like, meme wasn't all that prevalent back in 2007. While it wasn't until like a few years later where meme really started to kick off. Also, the word sus was used here and there in the original, which hasn't until recently become extremely popularized. The word sus, by the way, does pop up in Neo, and amongst other sayings like galaxy brain. Fret loves to say galaxy brain. We've also got noobs. We've also got cringy. The whole to be expected abbreviated text language, that's all here. It's, you know, the classic The World Ends With You tropes. It stays very woke to the current day and age. So that is it, guys. That is my sort of early review of Neo The World Ends With You. I am super, super excited for this. The original was good, but I think this is going to be great. Fan-fucking-tastic, to really be honest with you guys. If you guys have never played The World Ends With You before, I highly suggest giving Neo a shot. Don't worry, you don't absolutely need to play the first game in order to understand what's going on in Neo, as it does focus around a brand new Reapers game with a brand new group of people. Yes, while it will refer to certain things that happened in the first game, and of course reappearing characters from the first game, this still can be considered its own self-contained experience. Now is the best time to try TWEWY out for yourself, with the fact that the Neo demo gives you access to the first 2 chapters of the start of the game. Do yourself a favor, it's a very small download, and of course, best of all, it's free. I would love to know what you guys think currently about Neo in the comments section down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. However guys, I'm Cynical, hopefully having a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Sun goes down, sun comes up.